Hello guys. In this tutorial we're gonna make an interaction system so that our player will be able to interact with some items that he is looking at. So let's start. Let's create a new component and a new folder for our component and call it interaction. Here we will have a component for an object that we want to be an interactable. So let's create a new blueprint class of type actor component and call it interactable object. And let's open it up. Every object that we want to be an interactable should have some box of interaction or sphere. So let's get an owner first in begin play and promote it to a variable and call it owner. Well, next let's create a function and call it add interaction box. And in begin play we're gonna call add interaction box right after setting an owner. Well, what do we have to do? We have to create a new variable and call it box and call it just extends of type vector. Now in the add interaction box we're gonna get our owner and add the component. We're gonna add a new component of type box collision. Compile and save. Next we have to set extends for our box. Set extends and extends goes into extends. Next thing that we have to do, we have to tell what is the collision type of our box. So let's open project settings and create a separate object type only for interaction box. So navigate to project settings and in engine category we have collision sections here. And here we can define our custom object channels and custom trace channels. Well, now what we want to do, I think that we don't even need to create a new object channel. We will create a new trace channel and call it, for example, interaction trace. And default response for this channel is gonna be ignore and accept it. Well, now we can close project settings. And here on our box extends, we have to set it to block our interaction channel. First, let's promote it to variable before setting its extends. And now we can get this box collision here and set collision response to all channels. By default, its collision response to all channels will be ignore. It will ignore everything except our trace channel. So right after that, we're gonna get this box and set collision response to channel, select a channel to interaction trace, and it should block it. Let's select an extends in variables and set some default value, for example, to 100, 100, and 100. And compile and save it. Now, let's find some actors that we want to interact with. For example, I have a stone. Let me open my stone blueprint. Here it is. I already have a previous interaction box, but it will not work with a new one. And I'm gonna drag it onto a scene somewhere here near the rear. Well, now what do I have to do? I have to add a new component. I have to add an BPC interactable object here. And I want to set an extends. Also, you can mention that we can change a box collision here, but with nothing in. So I don't want to see it here. I don't want it to be changeable. I will open a BPC Interactable object and make it a private. Compile, save, and it will disappear. Well, how can we find which extents we want? We can simply add some box collision onto our object, like this, and for example, increase its size, like this. Oh, not like this. We should increase box extents, for example, not 32 but 50, and 50 here. So this box size is fine for me. I'm just copying these extents and selecting interactable object component and pasting these extents here. Now I can delete this box. Well, now on begin play, when game will start, this box with such extents will be added to my stone. Now we have to be able to check whether we have interacted with this stone. For that reason, let's create a new component, but for our character, and call it BPC interaction, and let's open it up. Let's get an owner. Let's cast it to BP, in my case, main character. And I'm gonna promote it to variable and call it character. Compile and save. Now we have to do line trace. So let's create a new function and call it make trace. Well, and let's create line trace by channel. Well, trace channel is gonna be interaction trace, and we have to provide it with start location and end location. I want to trace from a camera to some distance. So what do I have to do? I have to get a camera somehow. It depends on your project, whether you have a camera on your character that is placed on I don't remember how this line is called, on spring, whether you have a camera on spring arm and you have a camera on your character blueprint. You can access camera from like character camera, get camera. In my case, I have a custom camera object. So what I have to do, I have to get character, get controller, or I don't remember how can I get camera manager. Well, I have to get the camera manager, but I'm not sure how I get player camera manager. Well, I have just a function to get player camera manager, can get its transform component, and get camera location. No, I can get a world location of transform component, or if I remember right, player camera manager has such function like get camera location. Yeah, in this case we can just get camera location. Also, I have to get a forward vector, but for transform component, like this. So, camera location is going to be a start location of a line trace, and an end location is going to be a camera location plus some distance of an interaction. So we're going to add forward vector multiplied, not subtract, but multiplied by some float. Float here is going to be a distance of interaction. That means how far an object can be to make character interact with it. I think that 1050, 500 will be fine. We will check it now and plug it into the end. Also, let's draw debug type. Let's change draw debug type for duration, and we will check what our line trace looks like. Next, where we have to do it. We have to do it, I think, every event tick. And let's add this component to a main character. Save, compile, and let's start, and we will see how our line trace goes. Here it is. I think its distance is too big. Well, as you can see, it goes from my camera into look direction. Well, I'm gonna decrease distance of a trace from to 400. Well, next we have to check whether it was a hit, whether we have looked at something that is interactable. And if it was, then we gonna create a new function and call it handle trace hit. Here we will have an input of a hit of type hit result. Compile, save, and we're gonna call this function from make trace. Well, if it's true, then we're calling a hit. Next, on handle trace hit, we're gonna break hit result. And what do we have to do here? We have to show some widget if we're interacting with something. We have to show some widget, so let's create that widget. Let's create a new user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, and call it WB interaction widget. Let's add a canvas panel here. And what I'm gonna do, I want an overlay in the canvas panel. Let's select it right now and change it anchor to center, position 0, 0, and alignment 0, 5, 0, 5. I'm gonna increase its size. Well, what we will have? We will have some image. And let's set its color to something like this. Well, an image will have a text. The reason I'm doing it like this because I don't have an asset for a button, and it's gonna be F button, for example, because my interaction button is F. Well, size gonna be 12, maybe 12, and I have to put it a little bit, change its Y translation. 5 is too small, 7, and a little bit to the right. Okay, well, we have to show a player keyboard button that he should use, and we have to print some actions that he has to do. So we will have a new text, it will be aligned to the bottom, and for example, collect stone is going to be an action. So size is going to be 16 maybe. Let's align text horizontally to center and decrease size of an overlay. Well, now I'm gonna set position back to 0, 0 and compile save. Well, this is gonna be my interaction widget. And we have to be able to set this text, but we're gonna do it a little bit later. Okay. Now, my stone has to provide some location where my widget will be displayed. So let's open our BPC interactable object and add a new variable called interaction widget location. Compile and save. And let's open this BP stone and add widget. Just for test reasons, select our widget, WB interaction widget, and move it somewhere here. So for a stone, it will be located here. I'm just gonna copy its location, select interactable object, and paste it here. Now I can delete it. Well, what we have to do now? Every time we have a hit, we have to get an actor that we have hit and get its component. Get component by class. And a type of the component is going to be BPC interactable object. BPC interactable object. And we will tell this BPC interactable object to show us a widget. So let's open BPC interactable object and create some function called show interaction widget. Okay. Now we have to spawn we have to add component, or we don't even have to do it. We're gonna add a new function and call it like add widget. We're gonna get an owner here and add new component by class. Add component by class. It's gonna be a widget. Widget component. We have to set its relative location to this interaction widget location, and we have to set up some things here. Well, we have I don't remember how it is called, so let me open my BP stone, add new widget. We have to change its space from world to screen. World means that it will be rendered in a world like an actor, and screen means that it will be rendered on our screen. It will always face camera. It cannot be told like this because it's rendered on screen, but we will be able to see it anytime until it is rendered. So let's change its space here. So we're gonna set space, set widget space, and new space is gonna be screen space. Well, we have to call add widget on begin play right after adding interaction box. Also, by default, widget is not visible, so we have to change it visibility, set visibility to false. And on show interaction widget, we have to add an input whether we should show it or hide it of type boolean, and we have to get our widget that we haven't promoted to variable yet. So on add widget, let's also promote this widget to a variable and call it interaction widget and make it also private one. Compile, save, and on show interaction widget, we're gonna get interaction widget and set its visibility. And plug show into new visibility. Compile and save. That's all. Well, now in BPC interaction, where on function handle trace hit, we're gonna get this component and call show interaction widget. And make show true. But now we will have a problem that widget will be shown, and when we will look to other side, widget will not be hidden. So we have to know about last object that we have interacted with. Let's create a new variable and call it last interaction object of type actor. Compile, save, and here I have to promote it to a variable. I have to set it. But right before that, if we already had one, we should call show interaction widget with false for a previous one. Well, we have to do some checks. We're gonna get last interaction object, convert it to validate get, and if it is not valid, we're gonna do this. Well, if it is valid, then we have to check whether it is the same that we have hit. So let's check if it is equal to hit actor. And add a branch. If it is equal, then we're just doing show interaction widget without setting anything. If it is not, then we have to do to get this last interaction object. I'm gonna get it here. Get its component by class of type BPC interactable object and call show interaction widget with false, like this. So we will hide an interaction widget for a previous object. And right after that we have to call this. Compile and save. Now let me duplicate stone and put one here and one here. And let's start it. Okay, I have my previous interaction system and my line trace is too short. It cannot even touch on earth. So I'm gonna increase its length. So on my trace I'm gonna disable debug and its length is gonna be 800. Also I will select my character and delete old component. And now let's start. Well, looks like nothing happens and we have to check why it is so. Let's draw for duration again, check if hit happening. Yes, hit is happening with a stone, but okay, handle trace hit should be called. Here we're getting an hit actor and getting its component and showing a widget. I'm gonna add a breakpoint and check what happens. Set visibility to true. So widget should be displayed, but the problem is that it's not visible to us. And we have to define why it is so. Interaction widget location is set it up correctly. And on begin play we're calling add widget with a relative location. And the problem is that we are adding a widget component, but we're not telling it which widget it should draw. So we have to get this interaction widget on add widget function and set widget, and we have to select which widget it should draw. No, not like this. Set well, let me add a widget here and check how it's called. It is called just widget class. Set class well, by the way, set widget should work. Oh, yes. We have to set widget, but we have to also create a widget. So we have to create a widget first here, and widget goes here. Here we have to select a class. It's gonna be called VB interaction widget, like this. So let's disable debug for line trace, and let's start it. Now it should be visible to us. Yes, now as you can see, also doesn't matter how far we are and where our camera looks, we have such widget above a stone. We can even move it a little bit higher. I'm gonna just increase that location to 100. Well, it's not changed. Okay, now it's changed. And just for test, let's select a new object, BP branch, and I'm gonna put it here somewhere. And I'm gonna open it and add component to it, BPC Interactable object. Here I have to set interaction widget location. In my case, I'm gonna just get this sphere, check its location, copy it, and paste it here, and increase its Z location to 30. Well, box extends also. We can add a box like in previous. I already have a box here. I'm gonna just copy its. Okay, I have a scale here. Well, let's add a new box collision and change its extents. 100 is too much. Okay, such extents are fine. Just copy them, delete in this box, select an interactable object and paste in extents here. Well, now widget is displayed here, but as you remember, we don't change name of an interaction anywhere. So we may have different types of interactions like collecting, pickupping, just interacting with something like opening chests, doors, and it will have different types of interaction and different types of montage to play, maybe different actions to do, conditions. So we will have to create some structures for it, but we will add it in a next video, and thanks for watching.